The next IRP will be during January through April 2025. So this is an extremely important commission for Georgia. Now, why is this race important to you? It's important to all of us because right now the PSC, the current seated PSC, has allowed unchecked and unquestioned rate increases 6 times. And this includes the wildly out of control spending that an overrun for Plant Vogtle. There's actually a line item on your power bill that shows you how much you're paying for this project that Georgia Power overran. We know that there are going to be looming federal funding decreases. We're seeing cuts all over. And this is going to likely cause Georgia Power to shift even more of that financial burden over to us as consumers. The current Public Service Commission and Georgia Power have proven to us that they are not centering us in their decisions. Over 42% of Georgia citizens are the working poor. When we go down into rural communities, that goes up as high as 52%. If you look in urban areas and go to disadvantaged census tract and underserved census tracts, that increases up to almost 80 or 90% childhood poverty. And people in our communities are largely choosing between their power bill and a prescription, their power bill and food. And people who look like me, Black and brown children and Black and brown households are disproportionately affected by these rate increases. Not only that, there has not been investment in the rural grid. There's not been a sense of community reinvestment for projects. The PSC currently has a special election for districts 2 and 3, and they have been both pushed back and delayed in recent years due to a federal lawsuit that was trying to allow voters to be able to vote for the commissioner to represent their district in their district. But instead, we have a statewide election, and that's why it's important for you to know that. My opponent, who's the current incumbent, has only stood for election twice. He's 9 years into a 6-year term because of this. And so we need to make sure that we show up, that we tell as many of our neighbors as possible, that we communicate to our friends and our family why they should be voting in this election. The PSC races are the only statewide races this year. Let me underscore that. So everything else is local elections. Everything else. So this means that turnout will be focused primarily in metro and municipal areas where there's more favor, typically for Dems. And the national climate organizations are very anxious about this race because they understand what the long-term repercussions are for Georgia and for Georgia families, for Georgia's water supply, for Georgia's utility, for the acceleration toward clean and renewable energy. The other thing you should consider about this race is that this race will actually seed the ground for more important races in 2026 for the governor's mansion and the Senate. So, what are some key dates? Primary election date, June 17th. I don't have an opponent. I will be on the ballot. Check the box if you're there, because these are statewide votes. July 15th, the runoff election day, if needed, for District 3. That's also an extremely important date for you to note. because in District 3, we have several Democratic candidates in that race. And so it's important that you vote then on June 17th, and if necessary, on July 15th. In October, in-person advance early voting. So October 14th, advance early voting will happen. November 4th, we are going to declare that on General Election Day, that not only will I be the guaranteed Democratic nominee, which I already am, that we're going to take that seat. We're going to take that seat, and we're going to get someone seated in District 3 as well. And then the next year, when there's a statewide election, we want to hope to get that board flipped from Republican to Democrat and get 3 or more seats. So because of changes made by the Georgia Assembly in 2024, District 2 will not be on the ballot again until 2030. So we have a supreme opportunity here to send a message, seed the ground, and ensure democratic rule for the PSC. So why should you be voting for me? Pam mentioned just a few of the bullets on my resume, but let me just say that I've been a community advocate and doing advocacy and for underserved communities for over 30 years in some way or form. And right now, I believe that our advocacy has to level up and level up a notch, that it's got to look different for us. We can't just do picket lines and petitions anymore. We've got to be seated. We've got to be the voice and the vigor at the table. And here's the reality. If we're not at the table, we're on the menu. And we've seen this over and over again since January. All of our values, all of the things that we have worked so hard for as Americans have been almost decimated, right? And so you and I have got to do the right thing. We've got to raise our hand. We've got to not just vote, but we've got to vote, run, and lead. We've got to do all the things now because our grandchildren are depending on us. And so we want to make certain that for the PSC, that our values are set, that there's transparency and accountability, that there's fair rates and renewable energy, but most importantly, that there's community first leadership. And we've not seen that. I have a track record of serving underserved and rural areas. I'm a Georgia native. I'm a Georgia girl with deep community ties. Tybee is about 45 minutes from me. I live in Savannah, and I believe that every voice deserves power. And I believe that we should be, as an elected official, never putting profits over people, that we should always be centering people in every decision that we make. So I don't want to hog up your agenda, but I do want to take the time to answer your questions and hear from you and hear your thoughts, so that I'm making sure that I get all of those addressed. But this is a very key race, and the power is in our hands to make a difference. And I think that it will send a very clear message to our legislature and legislatively, nationally, that we have come to the table and we're ready to win and we're ready to fight for our rights in Georgia.
Thank you so much, Dr. Johnson here. Really great to hear from you and to hear just about your credentials and what
Mhm.
you will be bringing to this race, and to run for this race. So, so important, as I said. By the way, for those, I don't know that you mentioned this, but I know when I saw you previously, you mentioned that you had been to every single county, all 159
Yes,
counties in Georgia. So I cannot think of anyone who is more statewide than you are. So
yes, yes.
it's fantastic. In terms of the questions, I see questions. One that is in terms of will you have yard signs? And if so, when might those be available for us?
Yes. So one of the things that we're being very strategic about is not clouding the channels because people are confusing the races for myself and
Right.
our District 3 colleagues. And so we plan to pump up and get signs out and get things out right after the June primary, right when that primary is over, so that folks are not continue to be confused about what's happening, who I am in reference to the other candidates that are running.
Okay. That's very good. And the other thing that I've been impressed with in your campaign is that your campaign and Daniel Blackman's campaign are, as you know, we are supporting Daniel Blackman here even in advance of the primary, and
Wonderful. I'm glad.
your campaign and his, I know, are collaborating and in discussion every day. So that's
Yes.
fantastic. And by the way, for anyone who wants to know, Daniel's yard signs are now, I do have
Mhm.
a few of those. I'm going to be getting more. So put your name in the chat if, in fact, you would like one of those. And you have a good vantage point that a lot of people can see this here. The other question that came in was, what about, would this be the same in terms of phone banking and texting, and such that, and what
Yes.
other elements here? I guess the big question is when, in fact, it's after the primary and those results, and you can go full bore,
Yes.
what would be the most important things that Necessary Trouble and our volunteers can do to support you?
So definitely yard signs, but I think that digital canvassing is going to help us tremendously. A lot of people don't know what the Public Service Commission is. So
Mhm.
any messages we can get out via text banking or phone banking will be crucial. We'll also be creating some social media campaigns. Myself and Daniel have been both endorsed by Georgia conservation voters.
Mhm.
I've also received the Sierra Club endorsement, as well as, of course, being named the Georgia Democrat nominee. So the party's nominee for District 2. So we definitely want to make sure that we're coordinated and that we want to give Daniel as much runway as we can so that he can get his message out and get that clearly. And then starting June 17th, we want to just really ramp up our communications around what the Public Service Commission is and what the key dates are for voting in November.
Very good here. I'm looking at the chat now and seeing more questions here. One is the PSC involved in data centers built in Georgia? I know there's lots of things going on now, and if so, how? And what's
Yeah.
the best way to influence these?
Yeah, so data centers, if you don't know already, we've gotten a real we our governor has made it very attractive for data centers
Absolutely.
here in Georgia. They receive a 42% tax break. And it really drains not only our grid when they are up, but if you consider if you live in rural Georgia, like my aunt, who's on well water, when the grid goes down, her water supply, she can't access even water. And so the PSC has a large voice and advocacy regarding how data centers are run. They can also influence the decisions around the grid and the power drain on those, and advocating for the for those companies to pay for their own drain on the grid or their own upgrades versus those being transferred to us as ratepayers.
Absolutely here. And that I will just put in a plug for Necessary Trouble, that the work that we do with the legislature and trying to get more Democrats in there, because indeed I know they have batted down some bills that
Yes.
would
Yes.
indeed have
This
more
recent
constraints
election.
on the data centers and such. So
Yeah.
I do see also I don't know what to make. Here's someone else who is just agreeing with that in terms of both the power and the water for
Yes.
cooling those centers is another massive drain in
Yeah.
terms of the water supply as well here. So as you say, maybe good for business, bad, and it's not even good for business that much. It's only a few jobs that are actually created at all,
Right.
really. But here's another one, which is a great question. I'm so glad that Onika raised this in terms of no matter where you live in Georgia, we will be voting for District 2 and 3, right?
Absolutely. It's a
Absolutely.
statewide election, and that's why it's so key. Um, uh, Anybody all the way up from Rome all the way down to Colquitt can vote uh, for this race. So everybody's included.
Absolutely. And there's a lot of education that's involved in getting that across to
Yes.
everyone. What are your plans for rural broadband since the Trump administration is eliminating the Biden broadband expansion plan?
Yeah. So one of the things that I know, and I think I spoke to you about this, Pam, that when folks don't have access to broadband, particularly in our rural communities, they can't, their basic livelihood is impacted. Their quality of life is impacted. They have a trickling of information, a slowing of information, access to information without proper care in their area, with rural and essential hospitals closing. They don't even have access to good telehealth. They can't apply for jobs. So all those kinds of things matter. And so part of what I want to do is to discuss and partner and advocate with our legislature ways that we can increase broadband. I see that the PSC should be able to mandate community benefit agreements for large-scale energy or utility infrastructure projects that deliver tangible benefits back to our communities. So community benefit agreements make them reinvest their profits instead of them taking 11%. What investment do you have that pays you a straight 11%? None of us have that except our Georgia Power does. So I want to ensure that some of that profit gets reinvested back into Georgia, not just given to shareholders wherever they may live. So I want to mandate CBAs for large-scale energy and utility infrastructure projects. I want to require them to deliver tangible benefits that include jobs, health protections, and reinvestment back into impacted communities. And that can look like more broadband. That can look like clean energy. That can look like solar arrays and opportunities to lower the energy burden on our families.
Excellent. Here's another one. An easy one, are all the current members of the PSC Republicans?
Yes.
Yes, they are. And we will say that 3 out of the 5 were not actually elected. They were voted. I mean, they were appointed. They were
Three of the
appointed.
5 were appointed, and none of I believe that most of them are not even Georgia Power customers. So they're raising our rates. They're voting to raise Georgia Power rates, and they themselves don't have to pay them.
Yeah, that is my understanding as well. All 5 of them, none of them live in a Georgia Power district here.
Yeah.
Here's another one. What is your knowledge of energy issues which are complicated? Will you have experts to advise you on the major issues?
Absolutely. I will be working with consumer advocacy groups such as Georgia Conservation Voters, Climate Cabinet, and also the Sierra Club. I do not believe that, I know absolutely everything, but I think I'm pretty well versed and pretty smart. I have great reading comprehension scores, and so and also I have a significant track record of using different structures to help promote the needs of underserved communities.
Absolutely. And I've got, I think, looks like about 2 more questions here. Do you know how much these rate increases have cost the average user? And just how much of these increases is to run Plant Vogel?
Yeah, so the rate increases right now are costing the average family about $500 additional a year, the average person. And Plant Vogel, I don't have the exact number off the top of my head right now. But you can imagine if you just take the amount of money that you pay for Plant Vogel on your power bill and multiply that across Georgia households, what that looks like in terms of us eating the overrun for Georgia Power.
Yes, it's just amazing.
It is amazing.
It is amazing. And here's a good one here too. Does the PSC have any oversight of the EMCs?
We don't necessarily have oversight of the EMCs, but we do help influence EMCs. And I think that's important.
Absolutely here.
Mhm.
And the source of the energy, yeah, exactly.
Yes.
And then how do you, speaking of EMCs, how do Georgia Power rates compare to that of EMC customers?
Georgia Power rates are higher than EMC customers.
Definitely, yeah,
Mhm.
exactly. That looks like the end of the questions and everything, but lots and lots of interest of people who are interested in being supportive of this campaign. So we cannot wait to get going once the primary is over. Applaud you again for running, and for everyone, just for Karen McCowan has said, please, please, if you have put your name in the chat for any kind of material or any question and did not put your contact information, please add that. And the second thing is, I did notice that up in the chat, a really terrific webinar that the DeKalb Dems did about the PSC race and why, in fact, it is really such an important race over not only this year, but for the next 2 years. And we'll talk about that, of being able to completely remake the PSC such that it really benefits the consumers and citizens of our state. So thank you.
Absolutely.
Thank you so
Thank
much,
you
Dr.
for
Johnson.
Thank you all for having me. You can reach me at info@aliciaforgeorgia.com. That's my email address. Thank you, Karen, for dropping in my Act Blue link. And then my website is www.aliciaforgeorgia.com.
By all means here. And this is something, please, please, everyone, I mean, we will probably have a fundraiser later on, but this is the time to go ahead and build up the reserves. This will be a big, big campaign. We want to come out and support Dr. Johnson. So
Thank you so much.
thank you.
And you can send yard sign requests directly to that info@aliciaforgeorgia.com. And we will work with Andrew to make sure you get some, because I see there's several folks putting emails and so forth in the chat. Will you all collect those as well?
We'll collect that and get it to your campaign. I'll get it to Andrew and everything, so that we'll try not to overwhelm you too much here.
Thank you.
Thank you so much. And Aquaria, maybe we go back to you.
Thank you. Thank you so much. Thank you, Dr. Johnson. You know, the PSC is a very, very important race. The things they do for Georgia's is very important, particularly for those outside the urban metro area. And so for those of us who have families that are definitely impacted in one way or the other. So we just thank you so much for coming on board and sharing all of your knowledge and expertise in this area. And then we're so excited to support you. And thank you, Pam, so much for leading that charge on today with Dr. Johnson. And now we have our next guest that's coming up. Pam Woodley is going to present and introduce Davan'te Jennings from the Young Democrats of Georgia. Pam, you're next.
Okay, yes, it is my great pleasure to introduce Davan'te Jennings. Davan'te has had as long a career as you can have when you're 28 years old as a youth organizer. He currently works for Men for Choice, which is a 501c3 and 4 that recruits and trains men to be women's advocates for our rights. And he has also been the chief of staff for Representative Tanya Miller at the house at our state capitol. And she is a true rising star. She is someone you really want to follow. She is going places. I have been so impressed with the Young Democrats of Georgia. I gave them some small donations, and like a couple days later, every time I would have a handwritten thank you card in the mail. They're doing so many great things. One of their members was just elected to be the treasurer of the entire DPG. I've just been so impressed with them that I finally made the biggest donation I've ever made to any candidate to them, because I'm so impressed with what they're doing. Davan'te has an adorable little girl, and he's married, I think, to an attorney. So Davan'te, take it away.
Yes, yes. Thank you. Thank you. I appreciate that. I appreciate the invite to even be here. And the Young Democrats always appreciate a platform where we want, people want to hear from us. So I greatly appreciate that. I also would like to take this time to give a huge shout out to Dr. Johnson. Let everyone know I met Dr. Johnson, sweetest lady, super, super down to earth. And just, I know she has all our support already, but just if she hasn't changed her mind yet, hopefully we can go ahead and change her mind right now. Um, but without further ado, I would kind of like to give you a little background of like what the Young Dems are doing, what we have done, what we plan to do in the future, and a little bit about who we are. So, a few years ago, I pretty much stood in a community and in this organization and kind of felt forgotten a little bit. No real organizing infrastructure. We really didn't see young leaders taking on huge leadership roles within the party or in the state house as we do and we see now. And was coming across a lot of people who, especially younger people, who had very little hope in the political system. And I'm proud to say that today I stand as the president of the Young Democrats of Georgia, leading the largest and most active youth political force in the state. And I would like to also proudly say that we have gone from invisible to undeniable. Um, the biggest thing that when people hear the Young Dems, they say, why does it matter? Why does YDG matter? As we know, Georgia isn't just a battleground, but it's a proving ground. The decisions made here ripple across the nation. But the truth is, we really cannot truly run the state, take over our governor's mansion, our White House, without investing into the future of young people, which Pam, we greatly appreciate you. Greatly appreciate you. um, at YDG, we don't just talk about making change, but we actually build it from rural counties to college campuses. We're training, organizing, uplifting the next generation of voters, activists, and elected officials. And our main goal and the reason why we exist is creating that pipeline of leadership for the state that we need. So as they're going from high school Dems to college Dems to college Dems to young adult young Dems, from there on into the party. Some of the things that we have done within the last year alone, we have revived at least 8 county chapters across rural and urban Georgia. I would like to give a huge shout out to Christian Dent. He served as our VP of membership, now working in the Senate. We launched a legislative internship program to get young people into the rooms where policy is shaped. We created YDG University, which was spearheaded by our Executive Vice President, Elise Wade. And that right there is our premier training series that equips members with the skills to organize, run for office, uh, manage campaigns, lead with strategy, but most importantly, purpose. Um, and we've had everyone from elected officials to movement veterans help shape this space and help come in and give these trainings and really shape the program into what it's leading into now. And I would like to also say we are just getting started with that. So I would definitely be on the lookout for YDG University as it's going, and again, spearheaded by Executive Vice President Elise Wade. We've hosted statewide events from across the state with organizers and legislators, and we have our Young Democrats of Georgia Alumni and Associates Association. What is the Alumni Associates and Alumni Associates Association? Is keeping people who have aged out of the Young Dems, or they were Young Dems, like we know. Wendy Davis served as a YDG president back in the day. So people like that who have held a leadership position, or they're just supporters of YDG, keeping them connected to us without feeling like just because you aged out or you're not considered a Young Dem because you don't fall between 14 and 40, you're still a YDG member. I would like to proudly say we came up and we mapped this whole plan out for a good year. We're 2 weeks away from actually launching it off, and I would love for everyone to please look into the Young Democrats of Georgia Alumni and Associates Association. It is just a powerful, powerful tool, not just for us, but for people's campaigns, as we can help staff people up and so many other things that we could get into. Um, but where we're going, we are just getting started with our release of our Young People's Policy Agenda, which is created by and for Gen Z and Millennial Georgians. We want to expand YDG University into a year-round leadership institution with regional trainings and digital access. We want to grow our paid internship and fellowship programs because young people do deserve compensation for their time and labor. We're getting there. This first trial run, people had to understand that we're getting there, but we are getting there. We would also like to deepen our rural chapter development. We all seen over this past election, as we see and we hear about, elections are going to be won and lost in rural Georgia. We understand that, so we figured if we can go ahead and get our chapters launched off the ground in these rural communities, hopefully we can help, spur things up as the higher we go. And we also would like to scale our Alumni and Associates Association. This year, we have our statewide convention happening in Statesboro. So our YDG convention is our yearly convention where Young Dems across the state and Young Dems from out of state come in. We handle YDG business. We hold elections. I'm not up for election this year, thank God, but where everybody else will be held for elections. And we have speakers come in, we have donors and sponsors come and, have main speaking portions in there. And I am super excited because I think we haven't had a convention in rural Georgia in a few years, honestly. Last year it was in Atlanta. So I would like to proudly say we're bringing convention back to rural areas, and hopefully, at least through my presidency and my terms, we can keep it in rural Georgia. So with all of that being said, I would just like to close with saying, Georgia's future isn't just a question mark, but it is a choice. Um, and today we have a chance to choose the future where young people lead boldly, organize locally, and think strategically. The Young Democrats are ready. The vision is clear. The movement is growing. From YDG University to our Alumni and Associates Association, we're not just building programs, but we are building power. And I would like to yield for any questions anyone may have regarding the Young Democrats of Georgia.
Davan'te, I've got a really good question for you that
Yes.
Joy Kramer posed, and 4 people have already given it a thumbs up. What do you think of Leaders We Deserve with David Hogg?
It is, I would say, from an organizational standpoint, there is like this feel that is this what happens when young people get into leadership? Is this what happens when um, we do step into these roles? Is it going to be attacked? Is it always going to be challenged? Um, I think aside from that situation, or aside from that whole thing that's going on over there, people like Daniel Coley give us hope because, duly elected, fairly elected, fully confident that it can't be challenged. But with situations like that, it does create this atmosphere of people feeling like, is this what happens? Or are these targets we're putting on our back from making these jumps, from making these leaps? And that's just kind of the truth.
Okay. Let's see. I wanted to ask, is the YDG in general excited about the new chair?
We are definitely excited and will give anybody a chance in any type of leadership, regardless of what side you were split on. Even as us as an organization, we didn't take a full stance on one candidate or another, but we stand by whoever the people elected. We're e- excited for any new change. We have been in talks with the new chair to figure out some things that we can change going forward with the relationship between YDG and the DPG, just creating that a real what we like to call a solid marriage, and not just a um, you know distant relationship, but more of a solid relationship. But I like to say we're excited and hopeful to see the change that we hope to see coming.
And I think that's great that Charlie has already reached out to meet with you guys because
Mhm,
he's obviously got a lot going on.
mhm.
Another question, have you and your team talked about how to attract young people who did not go to college? The
Yes.
Democratic Party has trouble with that.
Yes, that has been the topic of a lot of conversations, because we had a comment from a young Republican one time and said, "You limousine liberals," is what they like to call us.
Mhm.
So after that, we started having conversations of how do we start targeting and making it more intentional for people who don't have college education to feel like they are welcome in these spaces. And I think a lot of that is toning down on the 5-syllable words when we're talking to people,
Mhm.
not talking over people's heads and trying to pull this, intellectual, philosophical, political ideologies on people, but talking to them like human beings and saying like, hey, you can be a part of this too. We are still for the working class folks. And just because you didn't go to college doesn't make you any less smarter. Just like people I know with 4-year degrees and master's degrees who I question how they got those degrees. So, you know, intentional efforts going on with that one.
Okay, go ahead. Somebody asked about plans to include Latino and AIPI, but the Democratic or the YDG events I've been to, you're incredibly diverse. I mean, yeah. So, but if you
Yes.
want to address that, go ahead.
Oh yeah. I would like to say we're definitely diverse. I would like to shout out Nico Para. He's our chairman of our YDG Latino caucus. And Kita, she is the chairwoman of our AAPI caucus. And I can definitely assure you that they are making sure that voices are heard. I am definitely made aware of whenever we're not being as inclusive as we can. And I think it even goes to, which we can do a better job of, is translation of information. So we kind of put flyers up, especially when we go into an election year, put flyers up and information up in English without really thinking about maybe we need to do a translated version of these things. So that's something, the one thing I feel like we can change when it comes to being more inclusive with Latino and AAPI folks.
Okay, cool. And another really good question. I think, as you know, in 2024, our party lost a lot of young men. So have you all talked about how to address that gap between young men and women?
Yes, and that's where I love my dual hat. I would like to say Men for Choice advocacy, the C4 side of it, partnering with the Young Dems in a lot of these initiatives where our target is young men, specifically between the ages of 18 and 28. Combating the misogyny and the what we find is there's just a lack of a sense of community with these group of young men that we're losing. Um, they feel out of touch with the party. They feel out of touch with us. And our job and what we've been working on, especially with Men for Choice advocacy, is giving them that space, that safe space to um, show that, this idea you have of what masculinity is or what it is to be a masculine man still happens over here on the left. So yes, yes.
Okay, good. I did want to point out that you must have someone from your team named David Personon.
I do indeed. David is
Okay.
our activism director.
Awesome. Yeah, and he stuck an email address in here, activism@youngdemsgeorgia.org, if anyone wants to learn more about being an alumni. Let's see. Well, maybe one more question. Do you feel you're getting traction with the rural white young Dems or young people? Excuse me.
I do. I do. I think that some of the conversations we've been having is um, when we especially talk about diversity, kind of even, being aware of the diversity of our boards right now. We do have a very heavily minority dominated board, and making sure that when it translates into like, younger rural white folks, that truthfully how we would contact or make contact with young Black voters or young Black people, you have to have people from their community that look like them talk to them.
Yes.
You know, truthfully, me going down to maybe relate to a young rural white person being a cisgender Black male from Atlanta is just not going to connect as well as somebody being from that area. So we're seeing more traction and growth with it, but just leaving it more to like those rural counties, like the Bullitt counties, the Effingham counties, to make those contacts with those people, and we support them in those efforts.
Yeah, great. Finally, I assume you would accept donations from this group. So
100%.
I am going to put the link to do that in the chat in case anyone's interested.
Thank you.
Thank you very much for being with us.
No, thank you for the opportunity. And we got a lot of postcards and letters ready to go out to y'all. So just let us know.
Bye. Bye, Davan'te and David. Turning it back to Aquaria.
Thank you so much. Thank you, Pam. We just had such great speakers today. One about the PSC Commission election, District 2, but then also about our young people of the Dems of Georgia and what they're doing. And just hearing about that is just so inspiring to see our young people definitely rising up and meeting the charge that we are, setting forth and continuing the legacy that we are building. So thank you so much, both Pams for taking on that and introducing the speakers and taking that those two spots on. And so with that, I'm going to turn this section over to Pam Woodshit, I'm sorry, so that she can now get to the meat of our organization, where we're going to have our reports and also our call to action. And so Pam, you're up next.
Thanks so much, Aquaria. And like Aquaria, this was a section that Becky Butler was going to be leading, and Becky is really, really good at this. So these are Bigfoot's, shoes to fill and such. So please bear with me. The first thing that we're going to have on the agenda, though, is I'm going to call on Valerie Manson to actually have another outside speaker, just a short speaker there, but really, really important as far as the impact that our efforts have.
I appreciate this time. I'm looking to see if Commissioner Allen has come on yet.
Ah, okay. And I know that we told him around 450, so we're
Right.
good.
And I verified that with him this morning. So,
And if you wanted to talk a bit first and
okay.
then Bill, and when we can welcome, or we can also move in and kind of just change the order if you would like a little bit more time.
Well, I can tell you a little bit about, we had our phone bank team, about 4 or 5 of us, make over 900 calls on behalf of Erick Allen to get him elected to the District 2 Cobb County Board of Commissioners. And one of the calls that I made, this woman said she and her father were in the car right then. They were so excited that they were going to vote for him. They'd read all about him and they just couldn't wait. And I thought, a candidate who can get a voter that excited in April in an off year in a special election has got to be very special. And he was successful. He was recently sworn in, and he just wanted to come on a minute and thank us for that. So if he comes on, we can do that. Meantime, I can tell you, as Alicia told you, there's going to be phone banking opportunities there. But even before that, there will be phone banking opportunities for Daniel Blackman. We're working on the details of that. And also, there will be opportunities. The Cherokee County Board of Commissioners has an opening, or Senate District 21 has an opening because Brandon Beach is now the treasurer. And we are waiting for Governor Kemp to call for the election. And when he does, then we will support them and get involved. There's one Democrat running with 6 others, 6 against 6 Republican candidates, and it's a jungle election. So we're really hoping, if not an outright win, that we could at least get her into the a runoff, and that's Deborah Shigley. So more information when they know when they're going to have the election.
Valerie, Commissioner Allen is now in the meeting.
Oh, welcome, Commissioner Allen. As I was telling everybody, it was so fun to call for you. Everybody was so enthused, and especially this one woman who said that she and her father were in their car on the way to vote right then. They'd read all about you and couldn't wait to vote for you. So congratulations on the win, and congratulations on generating that much excitement.
Well, thank you, Valerie, and to all of you guys. Thank you so much for the work that you did on the campaign. I know it was a weird time to have an election in the middle of spring and even winter when we got this thing started, but it was a successful venture thanks to groups like you guys. We had about 20 groups that were helping make phone calls, knock doors, just you name it. And we needed every one of those votes. So I really appreciate all of you and the effort that you gave. And I just encourage you to keep going. We've got a lot more elections coming up. We've got Public Service Commission in June. We've got municipal elections coming up in November. And then we're going to go right into the season of primaries for 2026 in May. And then, Senator Ossoff and a gubernatorial candidate, a lieutenant governor, attorney general. We've got a lot of stuff coming up. So I just encourage you guys to keep at it. And I really do appreciate all the work that you did.
And if I might break in for just a second, Valerie, Commissioner Allen, I just wanted to let you know, and I think that Ken might still be on. We have a guest also from Cobb Progressives, who I know campaigned very much for you as well. And I think Ken told me that he might have made as many as 1,000 calls individually on your behalf. So just to let you know, we are partnering with the Cobb Progressives around the PSC race. So we really appreciate that as we're trying to pull all of these wagons together here.
Yeah, and Ken is awesome, and Cobb Progressives have been great allies all through my runs, whether it be State House or anything else. So they have always been very supportive. So, and I do not doubt that Ken made 1,000 calls, because I think one day he called me. He was making those calls, not even thinking about what numbers he's dialing. He's just dialing them. But it was, but that was the story of so many volunteers in this race, and it was really heartwarming and encouraging to see all the support. And now we got a lot of work to do. There's a reason why we worked so hard, and that's not lost on me.
No,
and
absolutely.
I look forward to making you guys know that the effort was worth it, and that we're gonna have some conversations and get some things done in Cobb County that we've been needing to do for a long time.
Well, again, thank you so much for being with us and such.
Yeah.
Really appreciate it here. And it's a testament to phone banking here too, as we're calling for more volunteers, because not everyone likes to phone bank, but it really is very effective. So
Phone banking and knocking on doors are the most effective things you can do in a campaign.
absolutely.
I had more people calling me about yard signs, and I kept telling them yard signs are not going to win this election. They're not going to lose it. So let's stay focused on talking to voters. But are there any questions of me? Anybody?
Oh, absolutely.
Any questions? Love to have a conversation.
How are the Republicans on the commission now? Are they MAGA or are they reasonable?
They are, I wouldn't say they're MAGA. I think they're very likely to toe their party line. And we'll see that. I mean, we saw the first 3-2 vote that we had was on whether or not to provide money from us ministries to provide cooling stations for the summer for homeless. And for something like that to be a long party line is just,
yeah,
it's just ridiculous, to be honest. And I had a conversation with another group this morning, a church group of all people, on a Sunday morning. But yeah, one of them asked the question about faith and Trump and Republicans say they're big on faith and but I don't see it when you have votes like that, and when you have a president that likes to hold the Bible upside down and try to quote it, but he spends more time golfing than going to church. I mean, I challenge anyone to tell me one church service he sat through since he's been sworn in the second time. And so we're in a really interesting time. And I think that some people would like for Cobb to just be stagnant, but stagnation is not an option. We have to move forward. We have to be progressive. And I think we're going to start to see that on this board.
Absolutely. Are there any other questions? And
all right,
mostly just a hearty congratulations here, and
well, thank you. And
we are excited with you and for you.
I keep that energy, and don't forget to come speak at the meetings, public comment. We love to hear from you. There are only 10 spots at the beginning, 10 spots at the end, and if we take them up just to thank the board for things that they're doing, we don't have to hear all the crazy. So I encourage everybody to get there early, sign up, take all the slots, so we don't have to listen to all the stupid stuff. I mean, the crazy stuff. I'm sorry.
Crazy stuff. Wise advice here. Exactly.
Yeah, but I will.
You must know that we're a noisy bunch. So.
Yes, you are. Yes, you are.
Okay. Thank you so much for joining us. And
thank you, guys. You have a great rest of your meeting.
All right. Thank you.
Bye now.
Bye-bye. And thanks, Valerie, for inviting Commissioner Allen on, and for all of the work that the phone banking team did to make that possible and such. I think it's a great testament in terms of the work that you and your team are doing. And with that, I'm going to, and the power of phone banking, since I do have the mic, I'm going to take a liberty and just change a sequence here. So we had said we're going to do, if you will just bear with me, that since in fact I also co-lead on the voter protection piece, in terms of making phone calls and such there, we have a request from the DPG. Well, we have both thanks from the DPG because we had volunteers that had gone ahead and called all of the counties and such in Georgia to get the exact locations and hours and everything for the early voting in the primary that's coming up. Now they have come back to us and asked for just a few volunteers to do the same thing around the importance of the information that's needed for actual election day. So we already have Martha Rees and Julia Fenton who have stepped up to the plate. And if we could get just 2 more, ideally, 1 more at least, if you've done that before or haven't done it, and it's pretty easy, they'll give you a sheet and all you have to do is fill it in. Oops. Then put your name in the chat along with your contact information here. Oops, do I see Karen McCowan? Are you volunteering?
Asking to speak. Thank you for mentioning putting your name and your email in the chat. It also helps because we're about to get a lot of people asking for volunteers if you tell me what you're volunteering for.
Very good. Here, for this one, just put down DPG and your name and your contact information, and that will do it. Thank you very much, Karen. And if we slip and slide here, just let us know again. The other thing that I will do is in terms of, we've already heard from Dr. Johnson in regard to the PSC race. So I just wanted to come back with a couple more things in regard to that. And one of them is just to say, number one, just go back to that the DeKalb Dems webinar and everything. It's about 45, 50 minutes long, as I recall, and everything, but it's the best thing that I have seen in terms of explaining the PSC. And what it will tell you is just how important not only the organization is and the power of it, but also the next 3 years. This year, you have districts 3 and 2 that will be up for election, again, statewide. Next year will be, again, 3, unfortunately. Daniel Blackman, we make the assumption that he wins. He's going to have to run again next year because it's kind of like the situation we had with Raphael Warnock, where someone was appointed and then you're running for a rest of a term, and then you have to run again in order to get your own 6-year term and such. So next year it will be 3 and 4. And then in 2027, it is 1 and 5. So literally, while in fact there have been no elections since 2020, when we first supported Daniel, in the next 3 years, we will have the best shot ever of getting at least 3 seats on the PSC and making the biggest difference in the citizens, for the citizens of Georgia, that I think we possibly can make outside of the legislature as well. So, and I want to, I don't know whether she's on the call or not there, but thank Beth Levine for co-leading this with us and everything. And so there will be many, many opportunities to volunteer. I've already mentioned Cobb Progressives. Also, don't know whether Ellie Benson is on or not, but Ellie's out of Richmond County and Augusta. So there are more and more partners that we will be collaborating with. And so just to let you know, we will be having, hopefully, list out of Vote Builder and literature and phone banking things that we will be able to call up this week, sometime this week. So if in fact you are interested in going ahead and volunteering for the PSC campaign, which will initially be focused on Daniel Blackman, because so we can get past the primary, if you are interested in that, put your name, PSC, and the name and your contact information. And let's just get started on that. And again, also, if Karen or whomever could put in, we want to have another link in terms of Daniel's campaign, and mostly in terms of any kind of contributions. We had Daniel who came to our event at Manuel's Tavern, and he spoke to us and everything, but we didn't take up anything. So once again, contribute to Alicia Johnson's campaign, contribute to Daniel Blackman's campaign, volunteer. All right, I'm done. And now I will call on Anissa Alexander, if I'm not, I hope I got that right anyway, and come back in terms of support for protests. Let's all get out.
Hi, thanks. So it's Anissa.
Anissa,
So
I'm sorry.
No, you're totally good. I am going to be kind of working with Susan and Conrad. I'm going to be on the, so there's going to be 2 folds to this kind of movement towards kind of activating necessary trouble members for any local and sometimes maybe a little further out kind of movements and protests and marches and rallies. So we've got the general volunteers and kind of your protests or peace marshals. And then we have a medical side. We have Conrad, who's going to be over the kind of medical contingent. I mean, you know, everyone, there's going to be kind of more opportunities for training on both ends. I'm working with Alyssa C. On that kind of general volunteer and marshals as far as getting more training opportunities, kind of in preparation for Flag Day and, thereafter. And then I don't know if Conrad wants to tackle the upcoming training for anyone who doesn't have any experience coming up this weekend, actually. Yes, this weekend.
Conrad, would you like-
Conrad here. I was actually just today at the die-in down at Piedmont Park, and there's an opportunity. It looks like there'll be opportunity on I believe it is the 24th. This is Saturday, for additional medical training. This is for people to get a degree of first aid training. And then in June, there'll be a date this is like a 20-hour training. This is for people who do not necessarily have any medical background previously. But if you are interested in getting it would be like a Friday, a Saturday, and Sunday. I think it's about June 20th. Friday evening, and then a Saturday and Sunday in the Southeast Atlanta area. And I will dig that up and put it in the chat a little bit later. And if you're interested, please send me your email. And this is for training to be as they term it, a street medic. So it's not necessarily to EMT level, but it's more for being able to stabilize somebody, deal with them, whether it be airway, breathing, circulation at either a march or a rally. So there's things such as on April 5th, May 1st, and then we'll be coming up on, I believe it's the June 14th. So basically to become a street medic. And I'll add those and so if you're interested, please reach me at raining. I'll put that in RAININGATL@gmail.com. So that's rainingatlanta@gmail.com. And actually, I am not doing martial training. This is just being involved with involvement for medical type training. Over. Any questions? Okay. And I'll put more information in the chat shortly.
And then for the general volunteer and kind of peace marshal, I've got my email in the chat. If you're interested in either one or both, just feel free to send me an email as we get closer to any potential kind of training days. I will definitely kind of shoot out emails and information, especially as we kind of tighten up any like literature and things like that regarding just general best practices. Typically, I know if you've done any like movements as far as May 5th and things like that, we just did kind of a quick day of training, and there's probably going to be more of that going on in the future, in addition to some more in-depth ones. But yeah.
Wow. Lots of great opportunity. Thanks so much, Anissa, and also Conrad and Susan as well here for heading up this team. And by the way, I should have mentioned earlier that Denise Wright was on the agenda in regard to media bites and such, but she was not able to make it. So she will be with us at a future time. But with that, Pat, could you tell us about the documentary that's coming up this Friday evening, actually?
Sure. Necessary Trouble is co-sponsoring with Avondale Action and Georgia for a screening of a documentary called Exposing the Unspoken. It's something that was prepared by the Georgia Conservation Voters and Black Voters Matter two of the best organizations working in the South right now. They really are very effective people. So they're having this documentary that they'll play, and then they're planning this as a community conversation. So we get together, we see the documentary, and then we have a chance to talk with other people who are there about what's going on and what we can do about it. The documentary and discussion will focus on how decisions of the Georgia Public Service Commission lead to high utility rates for residents, and how the 2025 PAC elections for districts 2 and 3 can make a fundamental change. Things that we've started to hear in this meeting already today. So it'll be a chance to find out more from Georgia conservation voters and Black Voters Matter about how we can be effective in this work. I hope to see you there. Back to you, Pam.
Okay, excellent here. No, I will definitely be there and passing out cards and everything for the PSC. So the next up is actually Karen Davenport. And speaking of that and everything, who has been very busy in terms of both the cab Dems and all of the things that they've been doing around messaging around these key campaigns coming up.
Pam,
Karen.
Pam, thank you so much. They had some slides up that I wanted to share quickly, but while they're putting them back up, we do have a necessary trouble messaging team. And I'm not sure what happened to the slide. I wanted to invite anyone who's interested in working with us. Basically, what we are trying to do is take a plethora of information from a variety of issues and put it in formats that give a lot of research and background about the issues so that we as citizens know more about what we're talking about when we're sharing information. And secondly, how to take that information and make it succinct so we can put it in a variety of formats on social media with the communication committee. Do you see the slides at all, Pam?
I do not see the slides here. Do you?
Karen, who did you send them to?
I think we may have made the wrong assumption, Karen, that you would do a screen share. Can you do that?
Yeah, screen share, but it'll take me a minute. So if you want to go on to somebody else while I pull it up.
Okay, thank you. And sorry, as I say, I'm just a stand-in here.
No problem, we'll fix it.
Well, with that here, I might call again on the Fighting 50 and Pam Woodley. If you could come back and talk with us again.
Yeah, I just wanted to take a minute just to say thank you for to the troublers that are helping with our 2026 recruiting. There's a group of troublers that is texting a list that we got from Contest Every Race of people who are likely Democrats, and we've had really good luck with this list. I've had many calls already and have 3 scheduled already for next week. So thank you to all of that. And RJ is also doing a lot of great work in pulling lists out of the strong Democrats out of Vote Builder. So just wanted to say thank you. Everything's going really great for 2026 recruiting.
Thank you, Pam. And Karen, are you ready now, or shall we go on to Janet?
Go on to Janet.
Okay, Janet, you're up in terms of.
Did you see the question about who the Fighting 50 are? Someone put that in the chat. It's hard to keep up with the chat.
Oh, true. Yes.
Yeah, just real quick, the Fighting 50, we're a PAC because we collect donations. Our mission is to recruit, train, and support Democrats to run for Georgia House in rural Georgia. So all our red districts where there typically is not even a Democrat on the ballot. So the Republican just rolls into office without literally doing a thing. We had 34 really great candidates in 2024. 22 of them are running again. And we've already recruited about an additional 17. So that's it in a nutshell. We have a website, thefighting50.org.
Wow. Great work here. I'm so impressed with that. And Karen, I'll once again ask about you or.
Yes, I'm ready.
You're ready. Okay, very good. We'll do that. Then we'll move on to Janet.
Okay, so quickly, let's see. Can you see my screen?
Yeah.
So I wanted to remind people, and Janet's going to talk about the Board of Registration and Election, the DeKalb Board of Registration and Election, as well as the State Board of Elections. For those of you who may not know, on the DeKalb Board of Elections, the way that it is organized, there are 2 Republicans that are appointed by the Republican Party and 2 Democrats that are appointed by the Democratic Party. Well, right now, we have 1 person who is currently on the board who we've been notified is not interested in serving again. So we are in the process of selecting another person to serve as the Democrat appointee on the board. And those applications are due the 23rd. I'm pretty sure that after this meeting, this information will be sent out again. When you, on this link, it kind of goes over, oops, let me see. It goes back to go over what the application looks like. And so if you're interested in running, let me see if I can make this go back. Oh, Lord, yeah, here it is. Go back. Go back, go back. Oh, well. Anyway, let's see here. The application process, it's due the 23rd, and that we'll be making a selection as to who is going to serve on the board the 31st. And after this meeting, I'll send out another link to share with this. So as mentioned earlier, we had a webinar that gave a lot of information about the PSC. We will have a forum. Goodness, I'm having problems. We will have a forum that will go over some information. We will have a forum the 21st. The DeKalb Dems are presenting a forum that will give additional information about the candidates who are running. Of course, and when you're in a hurry, you can't get everything to work. So I don't know why this is not working here. I'm sorry, I can't get stuff to cooperate here. So let me not put it in the. Let's see.
And Karen, while in fact you're doing that here, there's a question in terms of whether that is the forum. Does that involve a debate with the PSC Democrats who are ongoing, all of them that are going to be?
Yes, they were all invited to the forum. I am not sure. Well, my last understanding is all of them have replied that they will be there. What I want to share with you briefly is some of it has already been discussed with Alicia, but on this link that was outlined earlier is a copy of the webinar information. And we also have a lot of detailed information on the history of the PSC that I'll be sharing with Pat, because I think, again, if we can get people to understand the importance and the impact, then we'll have more people turning out for these elections. Again, this is the link to the forum. What we are asking is, we have flyers that have been put together to pass out in businesses with colleagues. And if you would like some of these forms, or if you want to, please just email me at krdavenport@bellsouth.net, and we can get you copies of flyers and other information. If you're interested in canvassing in your neighborhood, again, we have information that you can pass out that reminds people about the importance of voting in this PSC election. We also have a DPG toolkit that has been put together that we can email out to you, of things that you can post on your social media. This flyer, as you can see, this is what it looks like. We have it in partisan and nonpartisan. So if you want to post one in your church, I have one that doesn't have the DeKalb Dems information on it. Again, I think we've said this over and over again, but if we continually remind people, then hopefully they'll remember to vote and tell everybody else about the importance of voting. We are having a pilot perspective that's taking place to help people understand the process of deep canvassing, and we sent this to all of the young Dems through Davan'te. And we want to encourage anybody that wants to volunteer. This whole process is to train people how to listen when they're canvassing, hear what the issues are, and then help people understand how some of their issues can be dealt with through voting for people that are working for them. We want to encourage anyone who's interested in learning about this process to please come to training on either of these dates. Obviously you can't come today because, well, you could. One, it's at 7, and then one's on the 21st at 1. And what we're going to be doing right now is we'll be canvassing June. I'm sorry, you can't come. It's not June yet. We will be practicing in the Lakeside community from June 21st to the 29th. But the strategies that we are hoping to learn in this canvassing pilot are deep canvassing techniques that we would encourage people to use all year. And we're hoping we have a body of canvassers that are willing to talk to people all year and get them more engaged as citizens in the process. Just a reminder, and this was mentioned earlier, that Deborah Shealy is running. So getting information about her and supporting her candidacy will mean we have more people at the state level to help fight for the things that we believe in. And of course, we continually remind people about the CDC rallies, Right the Wrongs, where they have people meeting at the state on a weekly basis, writing comments and voicing concerns. These are just reminders that you've seen before about all of the early voting dates. And of course, this is something, again, you can pass out on your social media to remind people. We will have a webinar also June the 11th, and this is really focusing on why we have so many children that are dying because of gun deaths, and looking at gun deaths, gun legislation, and lack of gun legislation. So please publicize this, and we encourage people to sign up for this webinar. I mentioned already the messaging team before we got these slides to kind of work. So please, 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 if you're interested in working with us, please sign up. That's it. Thanks, Pam.
Thank you, Karen. That's a lot of information and a lot of activity that we need to get about here. And next, actually, Janet Grant is going to talk to us about State Election Board and the DeKalb Board of Registration and Elections.
Great. Thanks, Pam. I want to start with saying thank you to so many troublers. This is a relatively new initiative of Necessary Trouble. Over the last months, we've been really showing up at both the DeKalb Board of Registration and Election meetings, those monthly meetings, as well as the state Board of Election meetings as well. And we've been showing up, and we've also been commenting. We've had a lot of troublers that have gotten up and made public comments, and really balanced out what had become in both boards a very MAGA-like concentration of comments. So thank you so much to those of you that have engaged and showed up with us. We also, a few weeks ago, had kind of a debrief for our group and a training session. Marla Tepper, some of you know her as one of our troublers. She's an attorney, and she did a great job of leading us through some real good training on how to make public comments. And we'll also use that information as we go into our next legislative session as well, where we were also active. So again, thanks to folks that showed up for that. Coming up, we've got a few things on our agenda. The Board of Elections here in DeKalb County will have their meetings on a little different day and time because of the elections in June and July. Both of those board meetings are being moved to the Monday after the election at noon, so that certification can happen by the boards. And we've seen, again, GOP MAGA folks show up at those meetings and question certification. So we want to make sure that we're there and holding our board accountable to certifying what I know, as many of us are poll workers, what we know are free and fair elections that are held here in DeKalb. So the next meeting of that board will be June 23rd at noon. It's a Monday. The State Board of Election just had a meeting last week. A number of us attended that, and their next meeting is in July 29th, and if necessary, based on the agenda, leading over into the 30th. So watch for more information about that. I want to just mention three other quick things. The State Board of Election has decided to have a rule review committee. Each member of the 5 members of that board will be appointing 2 people to that rule committee, and we're trying to put forward a candidate for that. If you have any interest in rules, let us know, and we could put forward your name as well. We also are keeping track of the State House has appointed, and now they have appointed members to a special committee that's going to be meeting here over the summer to look at our election laws. And so we want to be engaged in that, to be commenting, attending those meetings. So stay tuned as we learn more about when those are going to be. We'll have a group attending and engaging in that effort. And then the last thing is what Karen just mentioned, and I just will echo her invitation. We have all of the Board of Elections here in DeKalb, all of those terms for those 5 members ends on June 30th. So as she mentioned, 2 are appointed by each of the parties, and then there is a 5th position that is appointed by the probate judge. So at this time, we know for sure that Susan Motter is not planning to move forward in the role that she's held for quite a number of terms. And so we're going through this process, but DeKalb Dems to identify a Dem member to replace her on the board. So that application is due on May the 23rd, and I will put that link in the chat when I'm done here. The link I'm putting in the chat right now is the link to sign up to join us at any of these meetings. We would love to have you. If you haven't been to a meeting before and just want to come and find out more about what it is, there's no pressure to have to comment at the meetings, but as you get more comfortable, we again like to have troublers being present and being vocal at both of these election meetings. So with that, I'll turn it back over to Pam. Thank you.
Thanks so much, Janet. Been to the meetings, just amazing what the group is doing to kind of keep that pressure on. So Tara and Martha, tell us about, speaking of busy areas here, immigrants and refugees.
I have to share my screen. You're muted, Pam.
Okay, I think, Pat, can you ensure that Martha gets a screen share?
I'm a host. I don't know how to do it.
Oh.
I mean, I have my PowerPoint right here, but I suppose I can just share. Pat, if you're talking to me, you're muted. I can't see it.
Martha, just go ahead and share your screen.
That's what I'm trying to do.
Just hit the share button.
Here we go. Is that working?
Not yet, Martha.
I hit share.
And should share what's on your screen.
I did, I think. Share my desktop.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Is that working?
All right, now you're there.
Hi, everybody. Yes, last time I had to give a talk on this for this meeting, I was at the beach and had absolutely no video. So I'm just starting to do this right now. I just have to go into my PowerPoint and do presenter view. So I'm here working with Tara Doyle on, can you all see?
Yes.
Okay. An immigrant and refugee work group. We have a lot going on. We have a lot of people doing great things, and I'm just going to try to get through them as fast as possible. On the right side of the screen you're looking at is not something for you to read, but just to get an idea of the kind of action alerts that Tara sends out every week. So in this session, I'm going to talk about our subgroups and other allies and partners that we have, as well as other actions we do. And of course, you all know, we do all of our communication through a more secure Signal. Subgroup 1, GLAR, the Georgia Latino Alliance for Human Rights, trains us to be ICE chasers, who are observers who are called in to either report when we see an immigrant raid, an ICE action, or else to observe one. GLAR also does rights trainings in various communities around the state, in fact, but mainly in Georgia. I'll just say that with respect to ICE chasers, I get on my Signal advice maybe 3 or 4 different things. Did it just go away? Messages a day about these kinds of things. Karen, can you post the donation links? Because these are all really, really important, and all of these groups need a lot of money. Yesterday, there were 2 detentions. I got photos of them and 8 queries. Like just today, we just saw a car, unmarked car here and there. The next subgroup is Safe Schools. Very active group, even though they're winding down with the end of the school year. But they've done things like go to the school boards, ask them for statements, go to hearings and testify to see what schools are doing with respect to protecting immigrant students in the schools. Casa Alterna, another subgroup, they do a lot of trainings, they distribute groceries and food, and they train you and go to accompany people to their immigration court hearings. And this is an important task, as sometimes people come in, they may not speak English. You can speak English or Spanish to accompany them, and no lawyers, and sometimes the news is not good. So the support context is really important. El Refugio runs a hospitality house for people visiting their loved ones and friends and family at Stewart Detention Center in Lumpkin, Georgia. They need people to be hosts, overnight hosts at the hospitality house. They need Spanish speakers to staff the hotline of detainees calling for questions, information, and we can send them a little bit of money from time to time, and other projects such as letter writing. El Refugio is doing great work. They need money badly for groceries for hospitality house. They give gasoline to the families. They need clothes for detainees who are released either as deportees or back into the general population. So consider them. It's really important. A new subgroup is the Bears for Kids. So we have a great member who has started making these bears, and you can make them either in a group or at home and donate them. We've already given a bunch to El Refugio and more coming. But isn't that photo just so adorable? I'm just saying, we think this is the most fun group that's out there. Everybody wants one of these. Finally, we have other actions that are not in our subgroups that we've done. This is just a very few. Anton Flores from Casa Alterna did a pilgrimage of immigrant history around Atlanta. We have and give out, if you contact us, red cards, which are cards with your rights in English and Spanish, like don't answer the door. We've attended hearings. For example, the hearing about revoking international students' visas. We've gone to many, many kinds of trainings, including the one that's coming up, how to support people who are under surveillance. But we have others like ACLU, Legal Observer, how to staff a hotline. And of course, as you all know, you just heard Marshal and Medic training, among others, but there's lots of trainings going on. And finally, our group is making 2 documents that we're going to share on Google Docs, both with this group as well as with our allies and partner groups, of a database of organizations in Georgia that that you can add to that are working in this area, as well as a deportation resource manual, what you can do, what your rights are, and where you can get help if you find yourself on the border of Mexico, who can help you there. So that's coming attractions. We have other upcoming partnerships that we're doing, thinking of doing. The New American Pathways and Spiritus have great organizations going on. One of them is tutoring kids in the summer. Now that schools are out, we're thinking of that. And the Welcome Co-op it works with newly arrived refugees to help them get settled, as well as the Shop of Hope, which takes donated items and makes them into, or it's like a store. So we have good news and bad news. There's lots of work to do. Everybody does exactly what they're able to do and no more. And we're just grateful for that. And sometimes we actually meet in person to get to know each other, all of us who have only met on Zoom. And so our next meeting, we have a meeting every Sunday at 5 p.m., but the next one's at Tara's house. It's a potluck on June 1st from 4 to 6. And we will send the message out in Signal, but if you have any questions, contact us. Let's end just with a little bit of good news, because we have so much to work, but we all saw that the Supreme Court dealt President Trump a fatal blow of his quest to deport the Venezuelans without due process. So there is good news out there, and that's what we need to keep on doing. This is why we show up, to remind people you are not alone, to bear witness to a system that offers little justice, to stand in love, not fear. So thank you all very much.
Thank you so much, Martha. That was just a ton what you and Tara and the whole group is doing. I love the bears. I love the potluck. It's fantastic. And it sounds like you could use volunteers, and all of those organizations could use money. So here we go. And Michael. Michael is going to
Thanks,
join
Martha.
us.
I'm overwhelmed, Martha. What can I say?
I know. This is amazing.
So thanks. Just co-chairing with Jane Seward. Beautiful picture here. Again, just to remind people that Okefenokee is really the crown jewel of Georgia as the largest blackwater swamp in the country. It's in peril because there is a company that has applied for a mining permit just to the east of the swamp. And also what we'd like to do is just stop the mining permits. Let's protect the entire swamp and not have to fight this fight every couple of decades. There's a bit of a soft victory, and that the mining permit has still not been released over a 5-year delay. And my environmental colleagues tell me that's a soft victory. They've never seen a delay like this before. And so we're still waiting on the permit process for Twin Pines. The other is our role here as Necessary Trouble. We're part of the multi-member Georgia Water Coalition, which includes most of the environmental groups in the state, and working with them on a strategy to protect Trail Ridge, which is this barrier island to the east of the swamp that essentially keeps the water in the swamp. So if you dig it up, things can drain. That's the issue here and the fight that's going on. We want to protect that barrier, that ancient barrier island. We were able, as I said earlier, we had 2 bills sponsored again this year in the House. Neither one of them passed, but they're viable for next year. So we'll be pushing again, and you'll be getting notices about when we need to push, as they call it, at the grass tops level, which is the committee and the leaders in the House and Senate, so that we can get those sorts of things passed. One note is Sonny Perdue. Haven't commented on Sonny Perdue much in the past, but he wrote an open letter to the Secretary of the Interior and made it public about we just need to do the right thing and protect the Okefenokee. That's actually a really big deal and got a lot of press nationally. And so I'm thanks to him for doing that. So we'll keep pressure on these leaders and committee members going forward. We know what we've heard is that the land trust community is in conversation to protect the swamp by obtaining land or mineral rights. What does that mean is behind the scenes, people are talking about what would it take to buy your mineral rights or buy this land and donate it to the refuge so that we don't have to go through this again. And so that's in process. We're really thinking about how we can try and advocate for that, because there actually is a Georgia Outdoor Stewardship Program, which we'd like to see some of that budget surplus put in there. Just get this done. The majority of Georgians want this taken care of. It's just our legislative leaders seem to be blocking the road forward. The coalition, actually, we just had our spring meeting last week. The coalition really liked Jane Seward's idea, which is we got to go to key districts and start talking to all the local civics clubs about what this means and what we need to do to protect it. Because those key districts, their leaders need to hear my people in my district actually want this to happen, because we do hear from some of them, well, we never hear about this. And so we're going to be working on that slide presentations just to highlight the beauty of this place, whether you're an Audubon or Sierra Club or the Garden Club. The beauty of it is there to be restored, and what we need, here's the reasons why you need to talk to your legislator about how to do that. And then finally, trying to work in some of the final environmental issues into the PSC election, as we've heard. These data centers are huge. It's about free land, cheap energy, and cheap water. That's why we're the #2 place in the country to go. And you, the taxpayer, are going to subsidize it by building new power plants or refitting coal-powered or gas plants to make this happen. It's just a total boondoggle, and they don't create jobs. So they're not a lot of money spent, but very few jobs. It's about a big place that needs to be cooled so that people can put out their cat videos and use Chat GPT. And so this is the world as we see it coming, but we need people to understand what these centers mean, and also about coal ash storage and disposable, and really pushing for renewable energy expansion. That's the wave of the future. We need to get Georgia Power to get on that wave instead of trying to block it. So thanks so much.
Thank you, Michael, and thanks to Jane also, and for everything that you're doing. I love the land trust thing, and I love the way that you kind of wrapped some multiple things that we're doing together to show, what we can achieve here. Gareth Fenley, if you would join us. And Gareth, I also wanted to recognize that you have not only have the leadership in regard to Trans Youth Team, but also have now agreed to be our coordinator for Necessary Trouble with the Rural Council. So that's fantastic. Take it away.
Thank you, everyone. I do not have a PowerPoint. I basically have 4 calls to action, and you can take the slide down, that's fine. I have 4 calls to action. My first call to action is to recognize yourself. You are one of the 72 people who has stayed on this Zoom on Sunday afternoon on a beautiful spring day for almost 2 hours because you care about our state, our people, our justice, our democracy. I want you to recognize yourself. That's my first call to action. And I want to recognize myself because I'm here in Tybee Island taking time on my vacation to log in for Necessary Trouble. It's a very, very worthwhile effort. The second call to action I have specifically has to do with transgender youth, trans youth. We need to protect these very, very vulnerable people. And I am part of a work group that is working on that as part of Necessary Trouble. So if you are interested in joining our group of allies to protect trans youth, if you would put in the chat your name and email and the word trans, they'll get it to me. So what has the trans youth team been working on? Defending against what we called the slate of hate during the General Assembly. The slate of hate was a series of multiple horrible bills that were basically picking on these incredibly vulnerable young people who are just becoming a scapegoat for some bizarre reason for the federal government. We successfully stopped most of the bad bills. We partnered together with Georgia Equality, and Georgia Equality told us it was so heartening just to know that there's a group of people in Georgia who care enough to do something and stand in solidarity with these trans youth. There is a possible, very troubling, in a bad way, troubling future prospect that becoming a supporter to children or minors who are transitioning their gender could be viewed as child abuse. The President Trump issued a proclamation saying that what he calls gender insanity is a form of child abuse and that people are going to be reported for it. So far, that is only a proclamation. It doesn't have the force of law, but we are on the alert to look out for anything like this happening. And we're partnering together with other groups that support these incredibly vulnerable people, the trans youth folks. Okay, that was my second call to action. So if you're interested in partnering with that, put your name, email, and the word trans in the chat. The third one has to do with the rural caucus. So I have, well, I'm a little overcommitted, as you can imagine, but I have basically dropped a couple of other commitments I had because this is more important. This is more important to me than that some of this other stuff I was doing has to do with supporting rural organizing. So my third call to action is if you're interested in rural organizing, put the word rural and your name and email in the chat. There's a lot of really exciting rural organizing coming up. Some of it is already well underway, and Necessary Trouble isn't starting anything new. There's an opportunity Saturday, May 24th, with a group called Dirt Road Organizing, and it's in partnership with some Congressional District 10 Democratic Party and Indivisible groups that they're going to be sponsoring in-person workshops in two places. One is going to be in Danielsville, Georgia, and one in Madison, Georgia. If you live in Atlanta, this is like about an hour and a half commute for you to get to these in-person workshops. There's going to be one on Saturday morning, May 24th, and one on Saturday afternoon, May 24th. These are free workshops. If you're interested, put the word rural in the chat, and I'll make sure you get the details. And there's a whole lot of other stuff going on with rural organizing. So my fourth call to action, I can't believe this whole meeting has gone on and we haven't mentioned the No King's Day protest. I just want to make sure there is someone mentioning it. And that you are aware that on June 14th, there will be a nationwide wave of protests. It's called No King's Day. And I also want to mention something super important that on that same day, June 14th, Juneteenth celebrations are happening around Georgia. Okay. Thank you, Martha, for putting that in the chat, the No Kings. Juneteenth is being celebrated on Thursday, June 19th of 2025. And many of the events for this Thursday holiday are happening on Saturday, June 14th, the same day as No King's Day. So I call to action, be aware and be engaged with both events. Don't ignore Juneteenth because of No King's Day. They are both vitally important. And with all that said, thanks for being on here.
And thank you, Gareth, and thank you for taking the break from your well-deserved vacation here. Rest up, you're going to be busy. And then lastly, Pat, can you tell us about this survey? And I think this is just a information piece.
Yeah, this is just a heads up. Necessary Trouble has almost doubled its membership since January. And so what we're really interested in is getting some people to help us with some of the organizational things that we're working on. And so we're really looking to find what talents and skills and experience people bring with them to this work. And so there will be doing a survey, and it'll come out in about a week, maybe 10 days. And when it comes out, we need for you to fill it out and to get involved. And we got work for you to do. So thank you very much. Thank you, Pam.
Thank you, Pat. And thanks to everyone who signed up today and everyone who will be taking the survey and signing up for things in that way. That will give you a little bit more time after you've heard all of these great opportunities and such to see what it is that you want to do and how you want to immerse yourself. I will close out. We normally have a song at the end of the program, but Becky is out today. We really wish PJ and Becky both speedy recoveries, and we will look forward to hopefully seeing both of them back in the saddle come June the 8th, which is the date of our next Troubler meeting, and that will again be 4 to 6 p.m. We have come in just under the wire and wish everyone a wonderful Sunday evening, and I agree that we should clap for the Supreme Court. Yes, yes, yes. If you want to unmute yourself and just say yes, let's celebrate the good news.
Yay.
Yes. All right. Thank you so much, Chair, and hopefully we'll have more to celebrate next month. Thanks, everyone. Stay safe.
Thank